This is Skye, the Soulful Progressive, with FNN, Feminist News Network, the Feminist News that's right for you. Welcome to Skye in the Pagoda Room, giving you that soulful news you need, yes indeed. And if you haven't told a friend to like or subscribe to that Soulful Independent News FNN, you better let them know, friend. Get us up to 1,000, yeah. So we got mobilized. I know that's right. And I should be going live when? This Friday. All right. Now, get ready for that. But what do I want to talk about today? What is going on? Those MLK Lost tape interviews with NBC. Oh, yes, indeed. And it is relevant what he said in 1968 or 67, 11 months before he was murdered and killed in Memphis, Tennessee, on that hotel balcony, to today. And I am talking about the mineral, and I am talking about the military and the militarization of policing and the economic standings of warmongering. He put it into a perspective that we can understand and relate to right now. Right now. And you know what? He's talking what Tulsi said. If you listen, this is what Tulsi said. And if you recognize, Tulsi said it in her speech for the 2020 presidency when she announced it. She mentioned him. So somebody's knowing about this speech. Somebody's heard this before from MLK, and it was Tulsi Gabbard. And she is spot on for recognizing his acknowledgement and understanding on an intellectual, profound level. Because that man is deep. Very deep. We're going to take a listen, and then we're going to discuss how right Tulsi is by listening to this man talk. And then repeating it and saying how he's right. Okay, let's listen. I ain't going to get to listen. All right. I can show you better than tell. All right.
But I do say that the war makes it infinitely more difficult to deal with these problems. When a nation becomes obsessed with the guns of war, it loses its social perspective, and programs of social uplift suffer. This is just a fact of history. So that we do face many more difficulties as a result of the war. It's much more difficult to really arouse a conscience during a time of war. I noticed the other day, some weeks ago, a Negro was shot down in Chicago, and it was a clear case of police brutality. That was on page 30 of the paper, but on page 1 at the top was 780 Viet Cong killed. That is something about a war like this that makes people insensitive. It dulls the conscience. It strengthens the forces of reaction. And it brings into being bitterness and hatred and violence. And it strengthened the military-industrial complex of our country. And it's made our job much more difficult, because I think we can go along with some programs, if we didn't have this war on our hands, that would cause people to adjust to new developments, just as they did in the South. They said they'd never ride the bus with us, blood would flow in the streets, they wouldn't go to school, and all of these things. But when people came to see that they had to do it because the law insisted, they finally adjusted. And I think white people all over this country will adjust once the nation makes it clear that in schools and housing, we've got to learn to live together as brothers. I think the biggest problem now is that we got our gains over the last 12 years at bargain rate, so to speak. Didn't cost the nation anything. In fact, it helped the economic side of the nation to integrate lunch counters and public accommodations.
I know that's right. It doesn't matter your religion. It doesn't matter your level of education. It's about your level of understanding. All right? And you can understand by doing the right thing is to have racial equality that balances out against the warmongers that target brown people across the world to rape them of their resources and to create coups and regime change that does not benefit its people, but only the corporations that the military, because at this point our military ain't coming to save us from invasion. Nobody's ready. No brown and black people in other countries are ready to invade us. That's a bunch of bullshit and lies. It really is. And the people that can, they ain't thinking about it. What we want is y'all to leave them alone so they can go on about their economic freedom and make their money. But you ain't letting them because they throwing sanctions on them. Did I just break that down to you? No. MLK did, if you were listening. Because it's relevant, and Tulsi is saying the same damn thing. Because I'm just repeating what she said, but you know, me and my age, I already knew. I just had to make sure Tulsi knew. And she does. And she says the same thing. And you gotta listen, because you know what? I'm gonna repeat a little bit of the Tulsi speech from her inaugural run for the office that I recorded in Honolulu at Hilton Hawaiian Village when she announced it. And you're gonna hear her repeat what she said about MLK. And then we're gonna really talk. Yeah, you weren't expecting a long one, but this is relevant. Relevant. Okay?
Whether you are a friend or a stranger, I come to you with aloha.
See?
Regardless of the color of your skin, where you come from, how you worship God, who you love, or what political party you belong to. Dr. Martin Luther King saw this power of aloha when he first visited our islands and addressed our legislature in 1959. He said, "We look to you for inspiration and as a noble example, where you have already accomplished in the area of racial harmony and racial justice what we are struggling to accomplish in other sections of the country. And you can never know what it means to those of us caught for the moment in the tragic and often dark midnight of man's inhumanity to man, to come to a place where we see the glowing daybreak of freedom and dignity and racial justice." After he returned back to the mainland, Dr. King said of his visit, "As I looked at all these various faces and various colors, mingled together like the waters of the sea, I could see only one face, the face of the future." Our nation was founded on the values and principles of putting service before self, rejecting the rule of kings who prospered from the sacrifices of the people, and forming a new nation founded on the premise that leaders should be motivated not to serve their own interests, but to serve the people.
Didn't she say it? Wasn't she on it? Very relevant. All right. Now, we understand that she is relatable in the MLK term by knowing that there is a moral consequence to the cost of war and regime change. And we know, and if you agree with that, leave comments below and let me know. Because I shouldn't have to say no more. I shouldn't have to say no more. He said it. He spoke it. All you need to do is listen. And maybe like Paris and Hong Kong, get on it. They intersected for the Pride Parade. Now intersect on this. Because in this era of hate, you got to learn to participate. I know that's right. And if you want to leave comments or donate, contact me at FeministNewsN@gmail.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and the Facebook page. And remember, I'm that Soulful Progressive on Twitter. And don't forget that rant of the day on Blogger. Alright. Now, new one coming up soon. So, remember, I'm that one-woman team. Yes, indeed. So if you care to donate, PayPal me at PayPal. Feminist News Network at PayPal me. Alright. I got it. Alright. Now, I'm giving it to you raw. I'm giving it to you straight. And I am putting it in its place. What? The truth. And you need to hear it, because just like they say, it repeats itself. It's happening now. MLK, what he's saying, so relevant. And it shouldn't have to hit you over the head like a old cartoon with an anvil. Okay?